Hey, Nerd, Dynasty Nerds back again with another Dynasty Fantasy Football show. Be a little patient this episode. We do have a little bit of technical difficulties where the video goes in and out for just a couple seconds, but we have a lot of Dynasty information to talk about this episode.
Like the San Francisco running backs.
Sexy.
And we get your opinion on Matt and I's top 24 from last week.
My opinion to tell you why your first pick was wrong by having Javonte Williams there and it should easily be Najee Harris.
Whatever.
Or then Travis Etienne. And then we'll talk about some guys after top 24. Are they a sweet, succulent, delicious sandwich? Or are they a turd sandwich? Maybe like no, I love bologna sandwiches.
Ooh.
Let's find out, shall we?
Ready, set, hut. Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson, my fellow nerds, Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
And Garrett Price.
How's it going?
How's it going? We're back. We're in studio. It's been a while, but we're here to talk.
It's been a while.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, calm down there, Stained. I'm going to stain my Huggies. We're here to talk Dynasty Fantasy Football because this is a Dynasty Fantasy Football podcast. And as most of you know, or not most of you know, but most of you have probably gone through your rookie drafts, a lot of them. So we're about to enter a period here of Dynasty Summer. Now, remember, there's no offseason Dynasty, so we have a lot of content to get into about buys, sells, Dynasty construction. We have to take this summer and get ready for the 2021 season because it's a big season. It's 17 weeks, man. I don't know if you knew that.
I do know that. I like your new coined term, though, Dynasty Summer.
Dynasty Summer. That was slick.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to start using it.
Got to get summer ready.
Yeah.
Hot Dynasty Summer.
All summer, we're calling this the Summer of Dynasty.
Summer of Dynasty. So it's a big season. It's the biggest season we will ever see as Dynasty Fantasy Football players because, as we all know, there's a hot debate saying, hey, do we do our season now like we always did it, or do we do playoffs 15, 16, 17? NFL is like, hey, buddies. Hey, gals.
I got your answer for you.
Week 14 bye. What do you think about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, playoffs start week 15. Sorry.
Playoffs in week 14 it is.
Somebody's going to mess up and still leave their settings the same. Like, well, what do we do? It's round one.
I think a lot of the platforms switch it to automatically do your playoffs that way.
I know Sleeper does.
So hopefully, yeah, because they're great like that.
Last Nerd Standing, they hooked me up. And I go in there like, oh, when I got to start the playoffs? Oh, they did it for me.
Perfect.
And there will be more Last Nerd Standing leagues opening up soon.
Oh,
so,
we get questions about that a lot.
Yeah, well, dude, we're in the year 3 into this, like the initial launch, and people are having I'm having a great time in them now. Like, even if, I was really stressed out about them, but like
He
now,
said now.
I'm having a really, well, dude,
Finally.
there's a lot of stress, but now I'm having a good time in there because like now, we're down to 8 teams. So the rookie drafts, like there's only 8 teams drafting rookies. So in the third round, like I'm in one.
You're still getting some players.
I got Rashad Bateman
in
the third round.
What?
Well, dude, it's only 8 teams. So next year there's going to be 6 teams, and then after that it's the final. So I got to open some more leagues. It's way more fun than
The last year draft is going to be wild.
it is because there's going to be 4 teams. Wow. And there's only 4 rounds.
Picking up some players.
And you have to cut a player to draft a guy too. So some people could skip picks. So we'll see. I'll do a Last Nerd Standing show when we get closer to it. I'm not going to open those leagues till July. I'm just too busy right now. But as we enter Dynasty Summer, right? Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do besides listen to Dynasty Nerds podcasts, listen to other Dynasty podcasts, and check out the Dynasty GM and DynastyNerds.com and watch our YouTube videos, which is all fantastic stuff to do in Dynasty Summer. Well, I can give you one thing you should be doing. You should be going to DynastyDepot.com because DynastyDepot.com is going to give you an opportunity this summer to enhance your Dynasty portfolio, right? To buy some Dynasty Fantasy Football teams or enhance your wallet by selling some Dynasty Fantasy Football teams. All you got to do, go to DynastyDepot.com, use the promo code NERDS. This will give you their $50 package for $14.99. And this is going to give you an opportunity to be like on eBay with Dynasty teams. It's an FFPC platform, which is one of the most solid platforms you can play Dynasty Fantasy Football on, and it's going to let you go on there, draft some teams, and sell some teams. So maybe what do you want to do this summer? Like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to join FFPC. I'm going to draft teams with the sole purpose of selling them because I am such a good drafter. Or you're going to be like, you know what? I'm going to go on DynastyDepot.com. I'm going to invest in a couple teams and make a couple bucks and then sell those at the end of the year. There's so many different things you could do at DynastyDepot.com with buying and selling Dynasty Fantasy Football teams. I encourage all of our listeners to get there right now. Use that promo code NERDS. Check them out. Get Dynasty Depot. Make some money enhance that portfolio or invest in yourself. You know what I mean? Like invest in your Dynasty knowledge. There's a lot of good things going on there. And of course, we're going to be here all summer long because it's Dynasty summer to help you manage and build the ultimate Dynasty team. Because again, we're here for one reason only. We're not here for anything but to win our league this year, right?
That money.
And we'll have rebuild shows to help you rebuild too. But I mean, if you've been listening for a while, you're probably in championship caliber mode, right? Like you're ready to go. Like you're ready to rock it out, win some ships. I know I am. I'm in almost 20 leagues, and almost all my leagues right now are ready to go for the gusto.
There you go.
Because I ain't here to mess around, because I am here to win. You got to remember, Dynasty's fun because it's long-term, but you know what's really fun? Long-term winning.
Success. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so make sure everybody gets to DynastyDepot.com. Check them out. Use that promo code NERDS. And remember, just check them out first before you even drop that promo on there. You're going to see some teams that you might want to buy, or you might love the platform. I love the platform. We all use the platform.
Yep.
I encourage you to. So, some news happened today. Jeff Wilson got hurt towards meniscus.
So, yeah,
San Fran.
that's one of the... obviously San Fran's flooded right now. I feel like that depth chart is overrun with a bunch of running backs. They just got, they added 2 more this offseason. So at least this helps clear up some stuff for the early portion of the season. Jeff Wilson going down. We'll give a guy like Trey Sermon a little bit of extra, I guess, opportunity there in the offseason to prove that he can do it.
That's
getting hotter, Trey Sermon?
Well, that's one of the difficulties with all of their running backs. All their guys seem to be injury-prone type guys. That Mostert was hurt a lot last year. Trey Sermon, that was one of the biggest red flags in his profile, was constantly being injured. So that's one of the problems that San Francisco has had overall, is all the injuries to the running back position. It's not starting off good.
No.
So we'll see. But it really could, with how successful Kyle Shanahan has been with using the running backs. Whoever that guy is, if there is a guy, he could have a monster fantasy season.
Which right now, all signs point to Raheem Mostert. So you're talking about good value in Dynasty Fantasy Football right now. Raheem Mostert might be one of those guys. So a lot of people are saying, they're going to Miami. Hey, that's good value here. They're going to Atlanta. Hey, this is really good value here. Nobody's talking about Raheem Mostert because everybody's just assuming. I mean, I'm seeing Trey Sermon go 7th overall, 8th overall, and some in rookie drafts, and I'm like, hey, I'd like to land in spot 2, but let's pump the brakes a little bit here, too.
Pump the brakes, indeed. Yeah.
And he also drafted Elijah Mitchell, who showed some good tape there.
He did.
Coming out of Louisiana as well, and he took him. I know he's later 6th round, but how many times have we seen that too, where the second guy drafted turns out to be the guy? I'm not saying that's the case, but it's definitely a possibility.
Mostert wasn't drafted. Jeff Wilson wasn't drafted. They're not shy about playing a guy that's been a late round guy or
it was what,
6th
round, I believe.
For
Mitchell.
Mitchell. Yep. So I mean, he's got an opportunity. He's on the team. If he shows well, he'll get his chance for sure.
Yeah, so I'm real interested in what's going to happen out there in San Francisco. I mean, of course, I'm not listening to any of the reports that say, "Oh, Elijah Mitchell looks good so far in the 6-person non-padded practice," but everybody's talking Trey Sermon. Elijah Mitchell's good value. I think Raheem Mostert's good value because with Jeff Wilson going down, there's a good chance that Raheem Mostert could carve out just being the guy there, like the main guy there with his speed and his ability. He already showed us what he can do in that offense. Mm-hmm. Now that offense has expanded its weapons. I think Raheem Mostert's one of the best win now buys that you could possibly get. And since everybody's so hot on Trey Sermon, you might be able to get Raheem Mostert for a 2nd round pick.
Oh, I definitely think you can. Would you approach that specific backfield? Because I know we don't like to do this with all backfields, but would you approach that specific backfield with kind of the shotgun approach where just give me as many bullets in that gun as I can and hopefully one of them ends up being the guy this season? Or are you specifically just wanting to single out Raheem Mostert?
I like Elijah Mitchell shares. Let me put it this way. In all my rookie drafts, I think Elijah Mitchell might be my number 1 owned player.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm getting him there in the 3rd, like mid-3rd, because once you get, I know we're going to talk about like some of the guys you talked about last week when I wasn't here, the top 24, like what do I agree with, what I don't agree with. But like once you get outside that top 24, we hyped up this 21 class to be super stellar and deep. And it's a really, really nice class. But once you get past 24, you're talking about the biggest doo-doo sandwich that all these other classes provide. We'll find a guy out there. I mean, we still have like Austin Watkins out there. I like Elijah Mitchell's the one guy that I've been targeting heavy because listen, after this, like I'm taking guys at like running backs here, kind of like we talked about early in the process, Matt. Guys that offer some upside, and Elijah Mitchell's that guy because I'm getting him in the 3rd round. I'm going to have my taxi squad. I'll know what I have in Elijah Mitchell within 18 months.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, I'll know what I have. And this guy, the upside there is pretty huge because he's only another injury away from having significant share of fantasy production there in San Fran. But to answer your question, I do like that, like getting many of those bullets in the gun I can. The only problem is Trey Sermon's value has gone up so much. That bullet's it's a golden bullet. It's like we're playing Goldeneye, and it's a golden bullet. You only need one.
Just one.
But if it's only one bullet, it's gonna be a price and bullet.
Yeah.
Supply and demand. But everybody's treating Trey Sermon like he's the guy automatically.
No,
I don't understand that.
I would have liked the shotgun approach, to Rich's point, earlier in the offseason when you were getting Trey Sermon at 13, 14, 15 than I do now.
Especially after the Jeff
because you could go back and follow him up and get him, Elijah Mitchell, like Rich was saying, in the third round, and then if you got both of those pieces, I would say it's probably worth it to go out and get Raheem Mostert for a next year second or something like that, and just kind of get the set, because that way you're going to get a guy week in and week out in an offense that we know we like, and that values the running back and can put in some high end production from the running back position for fantasy.
The other thing with Jeff Wilson, just to keep an eye on. 4 to 6 months does not mean he's going to miss the entire season.
Correct.
Right.
So he could return back. They have a week 6 bye. So week 7 could be an ideal time potentially for him to come back.
And this smells like a pup type of situation where, whatever.
We saw that happen with Tevin Coleman last year. He was out for the beginning of the year. And
How'd that work out
came
with
back
Tevin Coleman back?
It got annoying. That was all it did, was he got in the way of Jerick McKinnon, and then Jerick McKinnon was gone. And then, I still envision this probably being an annoying situation more than anything.
This is what happened when Tevin Coleman came back. The whole locker room was like, somebody fart? Smells like doo-doo in here.
That was funny. But 4 to 6 weeks or 4 to 6 months for a meniscus, that must mean he's opting not to have surgery, right? Because if he did have surgery, I think meniscus usually have a shorter time frame when you just get the thing removed and get it yanked out.
I don't know. That's a good question. I honestly don't know.
He might just be rehabbing if it's that long of a timetable. But I guess time will tell. That's just in my memory. That's what I remember meniscus.
Okay. Yeah.
It's taking longer if you don't do the surgery.
It's why I like Elijah Mitchell at the top of the third, just because I like that upside. I mean, he's not unfamiliar with being a part of a 3-headed backfield. That's where he was at Louisiana. And you got to remember, when he was a part of that 3-field backfield, I mean, he still averaged 13.7 touches per game at Louisiana. That's what he averaged. So he wasn't like the main guy there, but he averaged 92 yards and a touchdown per game. So with his offense, there's some upside there.
He's definitely got the speed and athleticism to break off big plays, and I think that's how he's going to be used early on. Is sparingly, but he's probably going to offer some pretty nice chunk plays here and there.
It's where he thrives in that system too. That Kyle Shanahan said, the outside zone system, the one-cut runner wasn't overly excessively used in the passing game, but like you said, can or cannot. He can. Yep. I mean, look, we were talking about Jonathan Taylor. Like, I was worried about his drop rate. I'm watching videos of Jonathan Taylor in OTAs running 30
wide receiver one.
Yeah, running 30-yard routes, catching balls over his shoulder. I'm like, what is going on over here? Naheem Hines, slow your man down. This guy could be 2,500-yard person season.
And Elijah Mitchell was a wide receiver in high school, so we know that he can catch the ball. It was just a matter of getting him involved. Yep.
Good catch. So I'm really intrigued about that. So I like Elijah Mitchell and I like Raheem Mostert, and I'm willing to gamble on those two guys. Trey Sermon's too hot, but I'm using that hot name right now because right now it's the hottest his name has ever been. I'm using that to my advantage as a dynasty player. I'm buying Raheem Mostert and I'm buying Elijah Mitchell. Now, if Elijah Mitchell, what I'm buying Elijah Mitchell for is say he went in the 4th round of your rookie draft. I would try and buy him for a 3rd round next year. Is what I try to buy. Yep. That's where I go. If you went in the 3rd round of your draft, I'm just trying to find a player I might not want on my roster that I could flip for him.
Someone else's handcuff or something like that.
Something along those. Yeah. Just
Darrington Evans. You have Derrick Henry. Here's Darrington Evans.
A perfect example. Like I would like to get Elijah Mitchell on my roster, and then Darren Evanston's not a bad little swoopy on my as well. And then for
Alexander Madison, would you go to that length?
I would go to that length because Dalvin Cook's just the man there. Like I don't have when it comes to running backs, I don't have the patience to wait for Alexander Madison's contract to run out over the next 3 years for him to be the guy, or 2 more years to be the guy. Because
Chances
getting
are
other
there's
guys.
just going to be another rookie. I mean, that takes that spot anyway. Like the chances of him.
There's
leaving,
only so many Mike
right.
Davises and Michael Turners.
Yep.
Like that doesn't work out very often.
Exactly. Look at the two names you mentioned. Mike Davis, who just happened, and they got to go back to Michael Turner. That was 8 years ago.
We've seen others try it. Like remember Ben Tate? Remember?
Oh, I remember
how big
Ben
that was
Tate.
going to
Very
be?
close. Very close to my heart. That game to. But you're right. That hasn't panned out lately.
It hasn't.
in the NFL game, dynasty game like that. Ooh, when he's a free agent, he's going to be a
No,
stud because
you're either good enough to be a starting running back, or
In
you're
the
just
first 2 years, or
You're just
you're
kind
done.
of a backup guy. Yeah.
and nobody's paying these running backs. Second, like if you're a good running back, your team's paying you, and then that's it. If you hit the free agent market, good luck because nobody wants to pay the running back any kind of rate. Like Mike Davis got a contract, but it wasn't a glorious contract.
Oh, people still thought, and including myself, that they were very much so in the market to take a running back in the draft. And had it been a better running back draft, they probably would have.
Exactly. It's just the market we're in. It's how you should treat running backs. I mean, we talk about in this podcast all the time how we treat running backs in Dynasty Fantasy
First
Football.
contract.
The most fluid position on your roster at all times until you get to those outliers, guys like Christian McCaffrey. And I'm moving them. And these are because there's guys out there you could buy. Like, again, right now, if you're a contender, you can go out there and buy Raheem Mostert. You know what I mean? Like, what's that cost? It's easy for me to say on this podcast, oh, I'd pay a second, which some leagues that will get it done, some leagues it won't. But now's the time to do that.
I think most leagues it would. I honestly think most leagues it would get it done, unless the team you're taking him from is also a legitimate contender.
then
But
I'm
if it's a
layering it.
rebuilding, and
Right.
I think it makes sense for the rebuilding team as well.
it really
If I'm a rebuilder, I have no idea if this guy's going to play one game or 100 games. I have no clue. I'd much rather get a second next year.
Because there's a good chance come week 5, week 6, the price tag on Raheem Mostert for the rental will be a first-round pick.
It very well could be.
If he starts out the gate hot. I mean, every time he's had opportunity with San Fran, he's looked fantastic.
And he's been healthy.
He's been healthy, which is not very often.
Right.
He's been fantastic. But you can't predict injuries.
Right.
You can't. You got to hope that we're only looking for 1 year.
Sometimes you can. Some players you can predict.
Some
Sammy
players we can
Watkins.
talk about. Hey, I know, but he got hurt, and it was just one of those injuries that just never.
It just
turned around
never
to
went
be.
away.
So
Never went away.
San Fran, interesting scenario. Atlanta, interesting scenario with Mike Davis. Myles Gaskin in Miami. I feel like they're just going to bring a guy. Every time you hear about a running, they're in on that guy, right? They wanted to draft a running back. They wanted to potentially sign a running back.
They put a claim in for Kerryon Johnson, but got outbid.
And apparently they were going to take Javonte Williams, and Denver jumped them
they
to
did,
make sure
yeah.
they could get Javonte.
Which sucks. I would have liked him a lot in Miami.
It would have been a great fit. I think Denver will still be a very good fit.
It'd be fine.
especially if Aaron Rodgers ends up there.
Yeah, good luck with that. I can trade Aaron Rodgers to Denver, but
They're
you
not
never
trading
know.
him anywhere.
There's a lot of players that said this team's not trading for this player.
That's true. That has
There's
happened a lot.
no way the Lions trade Matt Stafford. They'd be idiots. But I don't think they get Jared Goff is back. But hey, who's he throwing the football to? T.J. Hawkinson.
That's for sure.
Well, he was my dynasty tight end 2 overall, but I moved Kyle Pitts there because I had to because I talked so much love. But now if Julio leaves, that's my love is strong.
It's so strong.
Him and Calvin Ridley.
He's gone as soon as June 1st hits, man. Don't
Oh,
you think
Julio?
Julio's gone?
Well, yeah, when he goes on the podcast, Shannon Sharp calls him up and he says, "Hey, I'm out of there, man."
But I bet you can they do a trade right now and say it's post June 1st, or do they have to actually wait for June 1st?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
So in order to split
Real quick on Myles Gaskin, you brought him up and mentioned him. This is something I haven't heard anybody talk about much. Chan Gailey was the offensive coordinator in Miami last year, and that was part of the reason that they had so much success. He really values the speed. We do have a new offensive system in there. Their head coach is not an offensive guy, and Brian Flores. Just something to keep an eye on. It could mean nothing. It could mean everything. So just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, all these guys are not going to pan out. Like, it never works out that way. Something happens. And plus Miami's not going to be as reluctant to rely on the running game. You know, they bring in Jalen Waddle. They bring in Will Fuller. They have Devontae Parker. They have Preston Williams. They have Mike Gesicki. They signed another tight end. They drafted another tight end as well. So they might be adding all these passing weapons to see what they have. And they got to find out what they have in Tua. They need Tua to take
Tua's
going to
have a full off season.
Oh, don't worry. We'll talk about him. Don't you worry.
Don't we?
Nerd Herd episode.
Nerd Herd episode. Let's not go too deep into the Tua stuff.
Nerd Herd episode, we're talking, just to let you guys know, sophomore step-ups. So
Stepping
guys coming in their
on
second year that we think are going to take a big step up. Some are be a little chalky, but some have some good information. Possibly as
A
well.
little spice.
So also, you guys, I want to talk a little bit about like last week's episode, which
Sure.
is essentially Garrett's top 24 and you commented on it.
I sure did.
I sure did.
So before we go on, because I know we're going to talk about like the guys after 24, which is going to be a nice thing to talk about. Talk about like some guys.
There's some guys.
Jags.
There's names.
There's some guys.
So obviously my number one offense here is Javonte Williams at 1 because
Over Najee.
Yeah, well, and I have Javonte Williams at 3, okay at 4, okay at 5.
And we talked about, Najee basically being 2. Like we both had Javonte first because that's how we have them. We have them ranked that way. And then it was, I think, was it ETN that went?
ETN's the one that slid for us.
He kind of ranged all the way down to maybe 5 or 6. But we said on the podcast, hey, if you pick Najee at 3, that's totally legitimate. If you need a running back, because after that there's like this cliff that happens.
Or ETN at 3, you mean?
Yeah, what did I say, Najee?
Yeah.
Sorry, ETN at 3. Yeah.
So we said 1 and 2 are kind of locked for us.
They are.
And then after that, 3 through 6 are kind of willy-nilly.
Yeah,
So-
I'm in
so
the
I
same
feel-
boat. My 1-2 is
Yeah.
locked too. Najee Harris and Travis Etienne.
I was gonna say you just have a different top 2, and then your floater.
Now,
is,
I will
is our
say
top guy.
one thing that did change, because Matt talked me into it, I wasn't quite sure where to put Kyle Pitts. I do have him at 3 now.
There you
Just
go.
so you know.
Hell,
You
it's a good
talked
spot.
me into it.
Hail.
Now I am willing in a 1 QB PPR league. I am willing to take if somebody took Kyle Pitts 1, I'm okay with it because you're getting Darren Waller essentially in my eyes. You're getting Travis Kelce. I'm okay. Like if TJ Hawkinson was in this draft, I'd be okay.
It's sparse.
Taking him pretty high.
There's barely any tight ends that are that kind of impact on your roster.
He's a receiver.
They're difference makers. Exactly. Yeah. So you have to value them as such. I mean, yes, there's going to be people that are going to argue, hey, these tight ends that are drafted this high in the NFL, their bust rate is high and they don't end up being these fantasy producers that you want. But I say Kyle Pitts is a completely different animal. He is a wide receiver playing tight end. And that's why
Julio's leaving.
And that's why you value him as such.
Yeah, I've done enough commentary on the show of why I love Kyle Pitts and why he's worthy. I've explained my theory on the tight end position in Dynasty Fantasy Football. If you can get one of those top 5, top 4 league guys, it's a huge advantage over your league mates come playoff time, come championship time. And you got to remember, I say this all the time, when you're in playing Dynasty Fantasy Football, when you get to the championship game, you get to the late round of the playoffs, there's a lot of good teams when you're in year 4, year 3 of your Dynasty team. Where can you get that advantage? Because you're most likely facing a guy who has Travis Kelce, Darren Waller. And there's a reason those guys are in the playoffs a lot because they have Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle. You know what I mean? It's a top tier. And those are all those guys there, but you say, oh, there's 4 or 5 guys. Okay, are you one of those 4 or 5 teams? Because if you aren't, then you're a have-not.
It's tough.
And in Dynasty, you don't want to be a have-not because then you got to offset. Like, okay, my tight end's weak, but then I got Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey. I'm like, okay, well, that's a pretty rare accomplishment, which could happen last year because Christian McCaffrey got hurt. But it's a rare accomplishment. So my biggest beef is Najee Harris is – it's not a huge beef because I do like Javonte Williams.
Before you go into this any further, can you just run down the list of Garrett's top 24 in case nobody, in case somebody didn't hear the last week.
Oh, because I was on the show last week.
Because you weren't there.
I'm not even listening.
People might have just checked out completely.
That's
Why don't
true.
we just recap it real
This
fast?
Garrett guy has no idea what he's talking about.
There are a couple people that feel that way.
Javonte, a lot of people feel that way about me too. I'm not a cup of tea for everybody. Trust me on that one, and I know it. That's my wife. Javonte Williams, Najee Harris, Kyle Pitts, Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, Travis Etienne. Now I'm going to stop there because that top 6 for me, I'm okay with. You know what I mean? Like I like that top 6. Now, Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase. You and I, we all had Devontae Smith 1 over Jamar Chase there. People tell us we're stupid. That's fine too. Devontae Smith is super smooth, but him and Chase to me, either way you want to
really
go,
close.
quality guys. But those top 6 guys to me are solid.
Good tier.
And Jalen Waddle, you guys have at 7. I'd almost say actually top 7 tier because I'm real excited about Jalen Waddle. How I mentioned him before. Like he offers such high upside, that Tyreek Hill explosive upside where he's getting you the yards and the touchdowns week in, week out. Not overly concerned about the receptions. I'm worried about his production, which I think could be at a very high level. I like Jalen Waddle a lot. And then after that, you have Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore, Rondale Moore.
And that was one of Matt
Trevor
and I's
Lawrence.
biggest arguments was Rashad Bateman and Terrace Marshall. Those were the two biggies for us.
Yeah, I would definitely have, you have so Kadarius Toney, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Terrace Marshall, Trey Sermon, Michael Carter, Pat Freiermuth, Amari Rodgers, Justin Fields, Nico Collins, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, D'Amia Brown, don't like that whatsoever. Cornell Powell, don't overly love that as well as my top 24. But the problem is for me to argue, so once you get to 22, like I like that. Like I would probably slide Mac Jones up a little bit. I would slide Elijah Mitchell up a little bit. I would slide up Austin Watkins potentially a little bit, even though he went undrafted. Not a really good situation for him. But I don't like. That's the thing. Once you get to round 22 or so, like I don't really love anybody. That's why I take Elijah Mitchell at the top of the second because other people are taking these guys. I don't like D'Amia Brown. Dyami Brown in Washington. I don't need to learn his name because I'm never going to have him in my rosters, and I'm never going to play him because they're going to lock up Terry McLaurin long term. They just signed Curtis Samuel. They have speed and routes at the receiving position. Dyami Brown. There you go. It's a Dyami summer, guys, and
Dyami summer.
The Dyami summer is going to turn into a brown town in the toilet because he doesn't offer much. Because you also have Logan Thomas there.
You're Dynasty.
Yeah, I am. Check out that license plate.
SD.
What
I just got.
What does he offer? Like, what does he offer? What does Dyami Brown offer?
I think he offers some nice downfield stretching ability. I'm not sure he's going to be all that ultra productive.
He offers the Washington football team some downfield potential.
Yeah, absolutely. And he offers some big plays. I think he's going to be a downfield guy, though. Yeah, he's going to be a very up and down fantasy producer.
Well, this isn't Cedar Point. This is Dynasty Summer. I want nothing to do with Dyami Brown.
So Power Tower, you just want to go up, right? You're the guy that just wants to get shot up.
Just shoot me up.
Yeah. Yep. Don't drop me down because I'm getting a little funny tingly feeling. Cornell Powell, like I'm okay with it. There's upside there if Mecole Hardman doesn't pan out, but like.
They're very different receivers too. I think he would be more of the possession guy that Sammy Watkins kind of was because he couldn't do as much as he used to do.
Because he was,
yeah. So I think he's more of like the safety blanket guy more than the big play guy.
I mean, there's just other guys here. Like I would just rather like gamble wise. We're gonna talk about those guys after this, so I won't go into those names yet. But there's multiple guys I would take over both these guys. I'm okay with Powell because he's in that tier of like whatever. Like that's how I feel after 22. Like whatever.
Sure. Dyami was just more so a case of like day 2 draft capital. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's a great player. And it's an offense that's going to fling the ball around. So we'll find out early if he's going to be able to make plays.
I think it's a nice match with Fitzpatrick with what he likes to do and just kind of chucks the ball down.
Yeah, that's long term.
No, it's going to be very short term. Yeah,
very short term.
Have you seen Tom Brady? That means Fitzpatrick has at least 4 years.
At least. I don't have a lot of hate. Like I do like Terrace Marshall higher than 14.
And I had mentioned that. Yep.
I would take him over. I know Amon-Ra St. Brown's in a really good position, but I would take him over him. Him and Kadarius Toney are interchangeable for me, but I would take Terrace Marshall over Kadarius. I do like Trevor Lawrence there. I'm okay with Rondé Moore. I still absolutely love Elijah Moore. But if you went Bateman over Moore, like I don't hate it either because I love Bateman's tape so much and I love the player so much. I'm hoping they can overcome in Baltimore. You know what I mean? Like I hope he could.
I think we're starting to see a transition too of I think they are trying to make a more concerted effort to get weapons in the passing game. We'll see how many more attempts that actually translates to.
You said that with a straight face. That was good. No, I mean, I think they're making a concerted effort.
We'll see if it works. I don't know that it will.
Look like they're going to throw the ball more. I don't know how much they're going to, in theory, actually
do. We'll find out.
I think what they have to find out this year is can they do that? If they're going to pay
specifically
Lamar Jackson,
outside of the hash marks. Like, can they throw to the outside? We know he can throw it to the middle of the field. That's where almost all of Lamar's production has been is to Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown in the middle of the field.
And I can live with that because Rashad can live in the middle.
He could, but he's going to line up traditionally as an X.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how all this pans out.
It's going to be.
I love the player. I'm going to trust that.
I like the player. I like the draft capital.
First round pick.
So they're invested in him to going forward. I like Elijah Moore too, but the only problem I have with Elijah Moore, the reason I would probably take, I don't know if I would take Elijah Moore. I probably would take Elijah Moore first, but there's concern there too. Like I love Zach Wilson, but they did sign Corey Davis as well, and they have Denzel Mims. Like, I know Elijah Moore is different. He's a fantastic player, and the cream rises to the top, but I really like Denzel Mims' game as well. And Corey Davis just got a really nice contract.
You did.
And Corey Davis is a very solid receiver. Like, they paid him to be the number one, so you have to assume he's going to be the number one target, like, game planned receiver. This new regime didn't draft Denzel Mims, so that kind of hurts Denzel Mims a little bit.
Sure.
Definitely taking Elijah Moore as high as they've taken him. So, like, if anybody's hurt in this, as much as I love him, it's Denzel Mims.
That's kind of how I feel about this as well.
Like, I feel bad for him.
The good news is
it's one of his 99 problems.
Elijah Moore is probably going to play the slot. It's really just how soon is Crowder out of town? That's really the question. Like, is he a cap casualty? Probably not, because
how soon it is?
They have plenty of
What's
room.
today's date?
It's summertime.
It's Dynasty summer.
It's Dynasty summer. That's
Enjoy
all.
that Dynasty summer, Jameson, who's a very solid player.
Very solid.
But this team has turned over to youth, right? They
is.
bring in Michael Carter. All the receivers are young. Corey Davis on a second contract, extremely young. Denzel Mims, extremely young. Elijah Moore, extremely young. Zach
Most of
Wilson.
their offensive line.
If Zach Wilson showed up at my son's middle school play, I'd be like, that kid could be involved. It's okay. He belongs here. You know what I mean? So, like, this team is young.
That babyface kid's pretty tall.
Look at this guy out here singing out of a little teacup. Look at him.
I see a couple armpit hairs.
Look at him. Are there some fuzz in your arm? What do you got? Buck week in a headlock? Look at this guy. So, yeah, I mean, but there's not a lot to argue at this point. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
I'm not an analyst that goes out here. Nothing drives me crazy. Analyst goes like, oh, that's a terrible pill pick. You're going to blah, 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 blah. It's like, no. Like, I like his tape. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go off of that.
Yeah.
And I trust it. I think people are like, oh, Rashad Bateman's in a worse situation. Well, I just made an argument why Elijah Moore's in a worse situation, because where are all those targets coming from the receiver? That's a lot to throw on Zach Wilson's plate right away to throw the ball around like that.
But if
Definitely
Jamison Crowder is gone, that opens up at least 150 targets that need to be spread out to somebody. I mean,
All directly just to him.
Yeah, Corey Davis and Denzel Mims and Elijah Moore.
and Elijah Moore. I mean, I think he's going to get a nice.
What about
chunk
Chris
of it.
Herndon?
What about Chris?
What
Herndon?
about Chris?
He's getting
Herndon?
11 of those.
He's going to get 12.
Now we're down to 139, 138. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I can understand the situation. That's why
They're all very
it's
close.
a top 7. Rondale Moore, really nice receiver.
You weren't as high on it as I was.
I'm worried about his fantasy football upside, like, and what they're going to do at receiver. Like, what do they trade for Julio Jones?
They are the shortest team, though.
They are,
Between
yeah.
Kyler, Rondale Moore.
Dude,
But they got some length. They went out and got Nuke last year.
if you put Rondale Moore on Kyler Murray's shoulders, he's as tall as our producer, Jared.
That
There
is
you go.
about
That's
true.
about it. So, well, let's move on to the guys after the top 24. But before we do, Garrett, tell me something really nice.
I can tell you something really, really
Thank you. I've been working out. I've been trying to like
You're
tan a little
looking
bit. So I'm looking a little
good.
bit better.
You look-
I'm just trying to feel
Dynasty summer looks good on you.
Yes.
I haven't been working out. But I have been getting some tan, a little bit tan. I've been outside.
Rich, where would you? How would you feel about getting a guy like Elijah Moore, Rashad Bateman, maybe even your boy Najee Harris on prediction strike?
Even better, Elijah Mitchell.
Elijah Mitchell, probably free.
He's probably a penny.
Penny stocks.
Penny stock.
Last week, Matt and I looked it up. You can get 2 Javonte Williams for the price of 1 Najee Harris.
Oh, you can?
Now you're interested, aren't
Yeah.
you?
See, I'm not paying that price on prediction strike.
There you
I'm
go.
Looking at, I'm actually buying penny running backs. I'm buying Elijah Mitchell.
You're
I'm
buying
Raheem
Rashad
Mostert.
Penny?
I'm buying Michael Carter
Why wouldn't you buy Rashad Penny?
It's a
If
penny.
you're buying Penny running backs.
because he's not going to play that much.
Penny?
Come on.
Okay. Anyway,
Penny.
but
Chris
at
Carson for the year?
predictionstrike.com, I do like Chris Carson. At predictionstrike.com, that's exactly what you can do. You can buy and sell shares of players just like it's the stock market. I'm getting into crypto right now, so it's making me even smarter.
You're the one that crashed it.
It was literally all my fault.
I bought the dip, so I feel good.
I did too. I
was already
Stellar.
invested a lot.
Let's go. Anyway, but on predictionstrike.com, you can buy and sell these players. The next round of guys that we're going to be talking about right after this, great names to kind of keep in the back of your mind of names that, you know what, they're not going to cost me much. I might have an opportunity to see a little bit of growth. Even if they don't do a ton, they're probably still going to have growth on predictionstrike.com. Better yet, they have an app. The app is what I love to use. I do that for all of my fantasy football leagues as well. That's why I love Sleeper, because I can do everything on the app. best of all, Dynasty, the promo code Dynasty, you will get $10 free with your first deposit of $20 or more. That's promo code Dynasty to receive $10 with your first deposit of $20 or more on PredictionStrike.com.
Yeah, my favorite thing about Prediction Strike is like the key to Dynasty, like to have like really good success, is to buy low and sell high. And that's literally what Prediction Strike is. So if you found yourself over the years doing really well, Prediction Strike's for you, and you're going to make some money doing it. If you found yourself doing it, not doing well doing that, and you keep selling at the wrong time and buying at the wrong time,
Probably shouldn't.
well, try it out anyways because they're a great sponsor,
Yeah.
but you're probably going to lose money. Just a heads up, but good practice makes perfect.
Listen to more of the podcasts.
There you go.
Then
More
go
of the
and gone to Prediction Strike.
Well, maybe that's not your go-to, right? But maybe I have something that is your go-to. Maybe you're looking to play a new format or on a new platform, Dynasty Fantasy Football. Well, I have something for you, and that's Reality Sports Online.
Or so.
By now, most of you have probably heard of Reality Sports Online, the most powerful fantasy sports platform where owners get to build and manage their fantasy team like an NFL general manager. But the question is, have you tried realitysportsonline.com yet? It's time to go see what all the buzz is about in the Dynasty community. It's free agency. It's multi-year contracts. It's a rookie draft, multi-team trades, franchise trades, tags, contract extensions, first-round rookie options, automated contracts and salary cap functionality, and much, much more. Think it sounds complicated? It is not. The best thing about Reality Sports Online Fantasy Front Office is that it doesn't take any more time than a standard league. It just requires more strategy. Think you're among the fantasy elite? Well, this is the platform to test your mettle. Still not sure? You can test out your general manager skills for free in a mock draft free agency auction, because that's what Reality Sports Online is. It's a free agency auction. It's an auction website. So if you're not familiar with auction, it's where you get a set amount of money, you go in there and you nominate a player. And you're like, I nominate DeAndre Hopkins for $1. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa.
I will give $2.
And I'm like, well, you know what? Screw this. I will give $5. And then you keep going through that. And there's a lot of strategy in auction leagues. My favorite strategy is like, let a lot of people spend the big bucks early, and then when they all start to get low on money, I come in here and reap the rewards and get all the players that I want at a bargain price. But do a mock draft and see where you find your strategy to be at realitysportsonline.com right now. And if you use the promo code NERDS, you get 10% off on your team or your league today. That's right, 10% off using that promo code NERDS for the best auction website out there today. Fantasy just got real. realitysportsonline.com.
Nice.
Now let's talk about some of these turds, shall we?
Nice. Some of these guys are.
Okay.
So do you want to continue down Garrett's same list so that we kind of have some consistency, we don't miss anybody?
All right. And then I will say, you can go down your list, and I will say have not. And have not means, well, I don't want anything to do with you. I don't want to touch you. You smell. You probably got, if I touch you, my hands will probably turn brown from doo-doo stains because you are doo-doo.
Gotcha.
Got it.
There's just a lot of guys here that I honestly, now somebody's going to pan out for sure.
Right.
But the odds of these guys pan out to me are slim as they ever been. Like, again, this draft is kind of somewhat, the depth is slightly disappointing. So let's see.
So the next guy on my list, I'm not even sure you guys have gotten an opportunity to watch much tape. Have you now? Okay, good.
He's a have.
Hey, there we go. The next guy on my list, number 25, 301 in a 12-team draft, is Emir Smith-Marset out of Iowa. This is somebody we did not do a breakdown on. But I was fortunate right before the NFL draft. I got my hands on some tape of his. Was really, really impressed. He ended up going in the 5th round to Minnesota. And he's got pretty good size, 6'3". He had a pretty good 40 time. He was in the low 4.5s. I believe he was a 4.5 flat. And this was a guy that was a punt returner. Emir Smith-Marset made a lot of big plays, a lot of splashy plays in bowl games. But it's the Iowa offense. It's not a high-flying offense. It's nothing that catered to his skill set. But he, like I said, 5th round, Minnesota. Minnesota does have a history of taking later round receivers or even undrafted receivers.
You know where Stephon Diggs was drafted?
5th round?
Out of Maryland.
Out of Maryland. You remember where our good friend Adam Thielen was drafted?
11th round.
Exactly. Was not drafted.
He ran a 4.43.
Did he really? Okay, mock draft will had it at 4.5, so that's even better. If it's a 4.43, he's running in the low 4s. I appreciate it.
Take right there.
So pretty good size, good speed. And like I said, we saw a lot on special teams. He can make guys miss. Yes, there's some inconsistencies in his game, but when you're talking about somebody that at least has all the tools to develop into a player, I think Amir Smith-Marset is that kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean, the GM there has a good track record of drafting wide receivers. Right now, we're looking at who's a locked in number 3rd guy in the roster. There really isn't one.
Yeah, it's Olabisi Johnson.
Olabisi Johnson is
just
locked in.
Just a guy. Yep.
Yeah. Adam Thielen he's over
31.
30.
I think he's turning 32 during the season.
He'll be 31 this year.
31 during the season. Okay.
So and
He's
again,
10 years younger than
that
me.
doesn't mean anything because they can easily draft a wide receiver in the 1st round next year, or they
absolutely.
can trade for Julio Jones, or they can sign a guy. But you're right, Amir Smith-Marset is somebody who does offer that upside. So going back to the Diami Brown pick, like I don't see any upside there from a fantasy football potential. Where Amir Smith-Marset, he offers some potential. So he's somebody I would 100% draft over a guy like Brown. And I would honestly probably take him over Cornell Powell as well, just because of the upside there in Minnesota, offsetting Justin Jefferson. Now, Powell is there with, obviously, he's Pat Mahomes. So they're really close for me. But with his speed and his size and what he could do and bring to the table, the fantasy football potential offers more to me with Amir Smith, and I really like him right around here, pick 24, 23, 26, right around there.
It's a little bit high for me. I do like the player. I think he's got some upside, but I don't think you need to take him that high. I
don't necessarily know that you would. This is just where I would have him right.
No doubt. I think you can get him in the 3rd round and feel good about it. That's where I would feel good about it. Getting him later on in the 3rd round. So it's just a little bit early for me. I do like the player, and for everything that you just said, he does have a clear path. I think in the future, not so distant future, to be fantasy relevant and have like a starting job on an NFL team. You know what I mean? That's all it takes sometimes.
And a lot of the guys we're talking about, it's like real slim on guys I even like with this path. You know what I mean? Like 5th round, not too early, not too late, but
saying there's a chance.
Right in that wheelhouse of like there's opportunity there that Minnesota has shown they will give those guys that opportunity. He doesn't have a lot of competition ahead of him. So he's one of those guys that I'm paying attention to a lot this year where like I want to see how he's involved in this offense and how he does, because if it does, he's going to become a mid-season buy.
For sure.
Because if he shows any of that potential, he's going to replace Adam Thielen.
That's the thing. Like if I see this guy actually produce in the NFL, even in like, you hear good reports come out of rookie camp, or he shows a little something in a game, he'll start to creep up my ranks. But for now, I'm going to leave him where he is, because he could just as easily be a 5th round draft pick.
You have him top 36 or no?
No, that we just never hear of again.
Hater.
That's how I kind of feel about him. You know what I mean? He's splashed. He's shown a little bit of things on tape here and there, but it's never been a consistent thing. That could be due to the offense. That could be due to the player.
Well, he had a really good market share, just because there wasn't much there. So, 26, Kenneth Gainwell. That is my RB6 right now in the class. Yay, nay? How are we feeling?
I have meant the exact same spot, 26.
26.
Yeah.
Yep.
The top half here of the 3rd round essentially is like, I'm okay. These are like the last guys. Like you're almost have them in the order I would have them where I'm taking them, because Kenneth Gainwell, again, he's offered somebody. He's got the speed. He can get outside. He can catch some football. So for me, coming on Memphis, like again, he set out the year because he was very confident in his ability. Some people think he lands in a terrible spot, but Miles Sanders just has not produced like we want him to produce over these last couple of years. Now, when he gets on the field, he does produce.
Right. He's just been nicked up. Yep.
But he's on the best spot, but at the same time, we've seen a lot of running backs offer potential as a 1-2 combo. And right now, the Philly wide receiver situation isn't complete. I mean, they got Devonta Smith, they got Jalen Reagor, 2 guys we like a lot. They got Dallas Goedert. So for me, Gainwell's a nice pick here. I would probably take him just a little bit lower, because in the situation he is on his rookie contract, I just don't see him offer, unless Miles Sanders goes down and he can prove he can handle some of the load. I don't think his upside offers high enough. And like you mentioned before, when we start getting this later in the draft, I'm looking for upside here. Right. That's why I like Amir where you had him, because like I'm just looking for really good upside. Because what I feel like most of these guys we're going to be talking about, like they're bottom of the roster guys. Some of these guys barely get off your taxi squad. So Gainwell for me, now if he gets an opportunity, there's a path there, and I like the player, but in this window, I like him.
He could absolutely be what Boston Scott has been for a while for Philly, in that he gets enough receiving work where he becomes fantasy relevant at times.
Show me a
because of
championship caliber. Show me a championship game where somebody's starting Boston Scott, though. I mean, like, again,
Sure.
I'm looking for guys that are helping me win. When we go back to say I always try to win, it's like, what guys are, I'm not looking for roster stuffers. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not looking for, like, Boston Scott at one point for a very brief window is a nice add into a trade. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Maybe Kenneth Gainwell, maybe the upside of a Kenneth Gainwell is like you draft him here at a high third and he gets a little bit of opportunity. You can turn him into a high 22 second, you know, something along those lines.
And that's what I personally, I don't see a ton of upside with the player himself. So I would use that opportunity to flip him.
The flip. He's his value here is as a flip candidate, not a long-term dynasty asset, in my opinion. You know, because I think Miles Sanders is night and day more talented than a guy like Kenneth Gainwell.
Yeah,
I like that.
Sanders
I'm not even pooping on Gainwell because I liked his tape. I know you weren't as big as a fan, but
I think it was a little stiff.
Yeah, you and I like his tape coming out of Memphis. So
He was my
I don't hate the
RB4
player,
pre-draft.
But the
Moved back
situation
2
for me
spots.
is just it allows me to get more on Matt's side here and just kind of move on. But I like to pick as a flip potential guy here.
Sure.
Put it that way.
All right, let's move on to 27. Dwayne Eskridge ended up being a second-round pick going to the Seattle Seahawks. How are we feeling about Eskridge?
I'm really confused about this pick going in the second round because they just locked Tyler Lockett up for a long-term contract where he's on that roster for multiple years. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
They do have an out after 2.
Okay, 2 years. It's
But,
still
yeah.
it's a long time. In Dynasty fantasy football, it's a long time.
Sure.
And they have DK Metcalf. There's no way DK Metcalf goes anywhere there.
No.
And he's their deep threat. You know what I mean? Like, he's their big deep threat. So, like, I like Dwayne Eskridge as a deep threat, right? DK Metcalf is the deep threat already there. Now, I know they want to, and this is also a team that says we are going to run the football more. So, like, where does Dwayne Eskridge come? He falls in the category of me of a nice receiver that can get outside, run deep, and make plays on those. But again, a person that helps an NFL team but does not help your dynasty team whatsoever.
Can we discuss this? The fact that in Seattle they are such a downfield passing attack, but Russell Wilson is getting the crap kicked out of him. So they go out and draft a guy in the second round who is a run after the catch type of guy, and you can get him the ball quickly. And he can do things with it.
He could do some poor man's Jalen Waddle type stuff.
That's what Tyler Lockett does well.
Traditionally,
but Tyler Lockett also gets downfield really well. I mean, you know what I mean?
Dwayne Eskridge.
Right. I know, but is it a kind of a change in philosophy or kind of not a total change of philosophy, but
You think
a way
Seattle's going to shorten everything up?
I think they're going to start shortening the game up a little bit and drawing some more, people closer to the line of scrimmage. The plays downfield are still going to be there. But I think they want to get the ball out of Russell Wilson's hands. Russell Wilson, obviously, this whole offseason was complaining about and wanting to get out of Seattle. Maybe this is a way to kind of placate him for another couple seasons.
Another good way to do that would be get him some linemen.
No doubt. But they are that's apparently against their Bible or whatever they're doing and using in order to draft people. They don't have offensive linemen ranked high. So
even if they do that on a team that wants to run the football more, like I just don't see the value in Dwayne Eskridge for a dynasty fantasy football roster. That's not. I don't think he's a terrible player. It's just he falls in that category of a player that helps an NFL team but does not help your dynasty team.
The hard part is I wanted to have him a little bit lower, but at some point a second round pick,
he's got to be there.
I have a good quarterback.
I have him a little bit higher than you. I mean, I have him in the back end.
That's right. You had him in the second,
and that's what we mentioned that last week. And it's he is a hard one to nail down. You know what I mean? Because everything we just talked about, it's kind of two sides of the coin. It could go where he just is this sparsely used guy, or they could use him because he's a second round draft pick and they had a plan for him.
He'd remind me of somebody then like that. You know what he reminds me of the same situation that's close to home for me is a Rashard Higgins for the Browns, right? Rashard Higgins is a very solid receiver for the Browns, but you're not starting him on your roster. He's the third wide receiver on a team that wants to run the football first. That he's the Cleveland Browns Rashard Higgins, right? Like, and again, he's got the barrel guy.
But in 2 years, he could be more than that. And this is Dynasty, and at this point in the draft, you kind of have to look at it like that. Like, hey, he's not going to be a producer for the next 2 years, but he's got a shot of replacing Tyler Lockett in 3 years.
Being Tyler Lockett. The other part we didn't mention, Gerald Everett is their newly acquired tight end. He is another guy that would play a little closer to the line of scrimmage. He's more similar to Irv Smith and some of those kind of guys.
Gerald Everett too. I forgot about that as well.
So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But I agree. This is more of a long-term play than expecting to get anything out of him in the next 2 years.
And you're using his draft capital that and he was a big Senior Bowl guy as well, Dwayne Eskridge. So I I don't hate him here. I would probably take him in the back end of the third.
Bump him down a few picks.
Again, I'm not looking for some of these guys here. Like I'm trying to get in, dip my toes in. Because Dwayne Eskridge, like I said, 2 years. Now I'm at a decision. I got to bring him up on my roster, right? Like,
and you're going to, and that's the thing.
And I don't think he's going to do enough right there. Like, I got to bring Dwayne. I got to bring him up because this might be they might cut Tyler Lockett, and they don't cut Tyler Lockett. Like, then what do you do with Dwayne Eskridge? Because now he's just clogging up your roster, and I draft too well to be clogging up my roster. Just me personally. I don't know about you.
Personally.
All right, let's move on to guy number 28. Josh Palmer ended up getting taken in the third round by the Los Angeles Chargers. Josh Palmer, a guy that we were kind of meh on in the film process.
400-yard Palmer. Come on, let's do it.
He was consistently 400 yards. Showed some flashes, but didn't show he could separate very often. Different things like that. But we do have third round to a good team.
Yep.
There's a potential role for him in the future. How do we feel about Josh Palmer?
This is a weird one because for me personally, like, I didn't like his tape that much. Right? Like I didn't like the tape, but then he ends up on a really good team that's probably going to lose Mike Williams here soon. And Keenan Allen's old.
Matt.
And they entered now, if Mike Williams balls out this year,
You guys are all going to just you're gonna rue the day that you put Mike Williams down. It's gonna be this year.
I still like Mike. Dude, they're paying Mike Williams over $15 million this year. They're paying him. So for them to lock him up long term would probably be equal to what they're paying him to now, if not even cheaper. So like if Mike Williams produces, that's still though with a guy like Josh Palmer with the third round draft capital on his team is like Keenan Allen's getting a little bit older. He signed a 4-year contract just a year ago, so he's got 3 more years.
I think he's only 28.
Oh, he is?
Keenan Allen, yeah.
It's the hairline. 29.
Yeah, he's really much younger than you think he's.
It's the hairline.
Palmer's interesting, but like interesting to the point where like where you have him. This is again third round, good team, good quarterback, lost their tight end. Why not gamble here on a good investment? Like, again, to me, I like this investment more than Dwayne Eskridge, more than Diami Brown.
But
you know what I mean?
You can't go against the tape that much. I agree with you. I didn't like the tape. I don't care where a guy's drafted because NFL teams make mistakes.
For sure.
I did not like Josh Palmer on tape, and therefore I ranked him.
I don't think I hated him quite as much as you guys did. I wasn't a huge fan, but he was kind of just mad to me.
This is a guy where if he's there in the 4th round, you know what I'm doing?
You're right.
Figuring out a way not to draft him in the 4th round.
You're right. I do have a problem.
Do you know what I mean?
Because
that's where I have him ranked, and I still don't want him.
Yeah, I don't like him here actually because I would have been the 4th. Because now I'm scrolling down through some of these guys. We should probably move a little bit quicker here.
We should
not spend as much time because there are some other guys here that I think are better. Like Austin Watkins, even though he's undrafted,
he is the next pick.
They're desperately looking. Like every time we hear about something and a receiver, it's San Francisco. Every single time they're involved on these trades, they're looking for a guy, and we all agree that we like Austin Watkins' tape. So this is a guy who can make this roster and then make some noise. Again, probably the number 3 guy here, but long term, I'm gonna go with you and go back to the morals of the tape that I like over anything. But I've also been taking Austin Watkins at the top of the third round in some drafts.
I have him in almost every league, but I haven't had to take him earlier than like mid-4th, fortunately.
And that's where you have to because that's where you can get him because he's an undrafted guy.
Nobody else has drafted him.
Right.
Yep. So we just mentioned him at 29. We talked about it enough pre-draft that I don't think we need to belabor him too much. But let's get to number 30, a guy that we didn't really talk about pre-draft, Tommy Tremble. He ended up as my tight end 3, ended up going to the Carolina Panthers. How do we feel about Tommy Tremble?
So what are the measurements on Tommy Tremble? Because I've heard him described as a fullback, H-back type of guy. Is that the role he's going to be playing in the NFL? I didn't have him out in front of me when I
blocks a lot, doesn't he? Like
he's
6'4", 250.
Wasn't really involved
6'4",
in the
250. So he's got plenty of size.
So here's the thing about Tommy on tape, and I didn't watch a ton of tape, but I did watch some tape on him. So very good blocker, very tenacious in the run game there. Very raw as far as a pass catcher, but a good athlete, like
he's
a very good
tools
athlete
to be better. Is what
right.
I'm trying
So
to say.
a little bit more of a project than some of these other guys, but he had the good draft capital and he's a good athlete. So combination of those things, they like to get blockers on the field. Anytime you're on the field, you at least have an opportunity to make plays. In a tight end class where really after the top 2 guys, there's not really a lot else. I'll take a flyer on Tommy Tremble.
I'm that's too rich for my blood as well on the Tommy Tremble love. I just feel like he doesn't offer enough fantasy upside. I think he's going to be on the field. I think he's going to be in a blocking role to start with, I don't know. Do you have to draft Tommy Tremble, or can you wait 4 years and pick him up off your free agent wire when somebody doesn't bring him up to the from their practice squad? So that's where I'm. If he's available 4 years from now, I'll keep an eye on him because I think he's an interesting guy from that standpoint. But I'm not going to draft him myself.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy. If he falls to you like fourth, I would draft as well, because how long you have to wait on him to probably produce? I mean, it's a typical 3-year window on a tight end anyway. So it's like I'm with Matt. Like I can invest elsewhere or acquire him later.
I mean, they
for
already
much cheaper
have,
than a third round.
They have
pick.
Ian Thomas that they don't use on that team. They brought in Dan Arnold, right?
Yeah,
Who's basically just a receiving entity, I think, at this point. So I don't think Tommy Tremble is going to be a fantasy impact type of guy. So.
Not year one, but to be fair, a lot of these guys won't.
A lot of them aren't. Yeah, I know. He's just a guy I'm not like willing to go out on a limb.
All right, so my next tight end is actually the next guy. I have Brevin Jordan at tight end 4. Slipped a little bit in the draft. I thought he was going to be round 3 or round 4. He ended up going to round 5 to the Houston Texans. But it's a situation where there's really not a lot there, which is good and bad. How do we feel about Brevin Jordan?
I just don't like his hands. I don't like his hands.
No, I know he's got issues there. I think he's got issues blocking. I think that's why he fell. He's good with the ball in his hands. He's good after the catch. But I don't really love the player, to be honest.
He's one of these guys that's really big, real athletic. So like you want to invest in those kind of guys as an NFL team, but like I don't like what I hate on before. Like Brevin Jordan, to me, like the odds of him producing are so. If he did end up being a solid tight end, it wouldn't shock me if he put together. But I mean, we see tight ends that have like his ability that go much higher, like a guy like Njoku. You know, I mean, these really big athletic tight ends that just
he's not nearly the athlete that Njoku.
No, not even close. But but that's why he went in the 5th though. But guys like that mold that people drafted tight end year in and year out, and they just never ever put it together.
Is he like a Ricky Seals Jones that like teases you here and there?
Well, he's like 6'7". Those guys.
No, I'm not saying from like a body standpoint because they're not, but they flash and then they're gone.
They have the 7-yard, the 7-catch, 105-yard game and touchdown, and then it's like, oh look, and then that's the best game they ever have in their life.
Yeah,
it's so sporadic. It's never worth rostering.
I think he showed much better on the field than his testing numbers were. I do think he's a very good athlete, and I don't think his hands are as bad as you guys do. I think they're fine. I think he's a guy that could do stuff over the middle of the field for a team that just doesn't have really many weapons.
They don't have anything. That's the thing that's going.
He's got the shot to show something fairly early on.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's really not much else at the position there. I mean, is it what's the guy's name?
Kahale Waring.
Kahale Waring.
Who they invested like a 3rd-round pick in too, right?
Yep. That was back in the day. And a
I'd
bunch of
rather Kahale Warren.
And hope that this is the year that he actually pulls it all together. Yeah.
Houston's such a mess right now. It's like, oh yeah, there's opportunity. Like what happens when Deshaun leaves? Like it's Davis Mills throwing the football. You know what I mean? Like a lot of opportunity there. It's just
it's Davis Mills and who did they just sign?
Well, they're going to be drafting whoever the number 1 quarterback is in the NFL draft next year. So he'll be the quarterback.
Yep.
So it's just I'm okay with him here. It's just I don't love the guy. Like so, let's just talk about a couple guys here real quick then, because we're over the show anyways that we actually do like. I'll go through. Like I think you have Mac Jones at 36. I would take him higher because he's a 1st-round quarterback, and I would just rather get a guy that can play quarterback. If he does take a step forward with Bill Belichick, then I can get some good value out of there for somebody that needs a quarterback, right? Like I'm getting him here late in the 3rd. If he pans out and he's the guy, I can for sure get a 2nd for him, right? Like for sure. Even in a 1 QB league.
Yep.
So I like him. Another guy I'm somewhat interested in is a guy like Ramondre Stevenson, who was like, I said, like when I was breaking him down, like he's a hashtag 2-year window guy at best.
Sure.
He ends up in New England. There's no set guy in New England.
We did comp him to LeGarrette Blount, which is hilarious that he ended up
I think that's perfect that he's there. I think that's a great fit. I think Belichick found a guy that he'll be able to use because I think he knows how to use a big guy like that can move the chain a little bit more nimble than he probably should be at that size, and he'll be
The problem was that was LeGarrette Blount playing well with Tom Brady. Would LeGarrette Blount play well with Cam Newton and the offensive line that they have now?
We will see.
But he offers potential year 1 usage. You know what I mean? So like he jumps up for me just because again, the short year window, I can get him on roster, and maybe maybe even not right away, but it's a longer season now too. Sony Michel's going to be hurt for sure at some point. So
I think his knee is hurting right now.
Ramondre Stevenson to me is somebody like I could probably use potentially year one. So I like him much higher than when you have him ranked. We already talked to Elijah Mitchell. You said that was an error where he's ranked at 50. I'd take him.
I moved him up. I have him at 33.
I take him much higher. Hunter Long's got some interesting investment.
I just don't like Hunter Long.
Kellen Mond, to me, like where they took him that top of the third there, he with his arm ability and the receivers that he does have, well, just having Justin Jefferson offers some potential to me.
Kyle Trask, I mean, obviously, I don't know where you have him ranked, but I think he is a guy worthy of talking about in this position. He's a second-round guy, end of the second round, but
sure.
There's already reports coming out that he's picking up the offense very quickly, and they're impressed with that he can actually throw to the right person.
Every top 3 round pick guy.
But I mean, it's better than not hearing anything or hearing negative stuff.
But all those running backs, all those quarterbacks, like Kellen Mond, Davis Mills, and Kyle Trask. I like hearing like top of the fourth because again, if I'm going to invest in those guys, I will know in 2 years if I need to bring them up or not. If not, I cut them. But if they do bring them up, I have somebody I could potentially either trade for a second round pick or start on my roster. So,
sure.
But besides that, man, I don't know about for you. I mean, Anthony Schwartz does one thing well, but coming out of Cleveland, they're talking about they drafted him because how smart he was with a team that has 2 older receivers. He might offer a little potential downstairs. I mean, I can't
get him in my third.
He can't. Round. No, not in the third round at all. But I'm talking like
fourth, fifth.
You have him 51. Like, but he's somebody like I'm somewhat interested because he runs a 4.27. He has third round draft capital.
Sure,
but that's really about it for me, man. I don't know who catches your eye here. I mean, Gluteus Minimus is okay, but that's about it.
Khalil Herbert was a guy that
and Herbert's somebody I like.
A 6th round draft pick. I don't think there's much there behind Montgomery. All it would take, I think, is a nice little hamstring injury, and Khalil Herbert might be able to establish himself as a guy that's relevant in that offense. So that's why as a 6th round draft pick, I liked Herbert's tape out of Virginia Tech.
And I do like his tape as well. And you're right, David Montgomery's not a shoo-in. So, but that's it. That's our episode.
Wraps it up.
We're gonna go into our nerd episode, like we mentioned. We're gonna talk about sophomore step up guys. We think going to up in their second year. They're gonna kind of contribute here. And then after this, we're gonna do a couple weeks here of buy sells.
Yep, we're going to go through each position, players that we want to buy, players that we're out on, and we're going to take a break from the rookies. We've talked a lot about the rookie class. We're going to focus on these veterans, which guys we're buying, which ones we're selling.
It's Dynasty Summer, baby. We got to do Dynasty Construction. So this is pretty much the end of our rookie talk. This is it. This is like the closing chapter of it. So let's get into it. We got a big summer ahead of us. Let's build these Dynasty rosters to either the perfect rebuild or the perfect contender. We'll be back next week, Nerd Herd.
Adios.